Hello viewers, Super GT here. Okay, we're back finally on Gran Turismo, and this video really highlights many of the downsides, the perils of GT Sport, but also very much the upsides. Let's begin with the chaos and insanity that is qualifying. It's pretty much always a mess, and this qualifying session was no different, especially around Fuji, a track which really benefits from a good slipstream down the long straight. So this is your typical scene before everyone's flying lap at Fuji. Sector 3 is basically a car park, as no one wants to go out the front, and eventually a bit more jostling going on going into the final corner here, and then finally someone just goes for it and we all just end up going. And this is one of the reasons why qualifying still is an absolute mess on this game, and it was a mess even back in the fuel burning days, but it's still not fixed. Here we are, what, 3.5 years later, and it's still not quite there. I messed myself up by not actually getting close enough into the toe, so all of that slipstream we're trying to get, and I didn't actually manage to get it. 37.4, 37.5, not really that good of a lap. You see it there, 19th, 1.1 seconds away from pole position, but 19th, so pretty much last. I probably, I don't know, maybe lost half a second by not having the toe, so I know it could have been a lot further up the order, but it just shows you just how important it is to make sure you do get that slipstream. But it didn't matter anyway, because the game decided that it didn't want to be a game anymore and threw us back into the main menu. I think that was happening to quite a lot of people. Okay, so jumped into a practice session in the meantime because I wanted to do the next race. It's an hour and 20 between each race, so jumped into the practice here. Practice the pit entry, practice soft tyre, practice medium tyre. You have to use both tyres for this race that's coming up. Avoid the curb of death, which we will see very much of during the course of this video. And then eventually, we did about 25 minutes of practice there. That was enough to jump back in, go back in for the 9 o'clock split here. And hopefully this one won't chuck us back into the main menu. We can actually complete this one. That'll be rather nice. So BMW is our brand. All right. Back into qualifying. Back into the horror show. That is qualifying. Now, I often get let out first now. I think when you have a PS5, it does that. But I actually don't want to be at the front, as we kind of seen. So I'm just going to let 1,000 people go ahead of me, and then try to find a nice little place at the back of this big, chunky group. And that's exactly what we do here, but up behind this Jaguar. Still, though, we have the problem of people queuing up. And yeah, that's just the silly way it is. It's just the way it is. I said earlier in the video that you lose maybe half, or you gain half a second from the toe. I don't know. It could even be more than that. For a whole lap, it might be more than even half a second. And when you're racing guys who are on your level, you need that half a second. Otherwise, you're going to be like 5-6 positions lower than you would be. Maybe more than that. Okay, so I got the toe this time, but you see here, look at this into turn. This is qualifying. It looks much more like a race. And in fact, Lawrence there getting shuffled a bit wide. He actually backs out and quits. The Jaguar does the same. A little bit off-putting, it must be said, as you come into this far sweeping left-hander. This guy has a big moment on the curb of death and almost, dies of death. Luckily, he just escapes. But then, quite annoyingly here, he drives wide and then just sticks on the racing line and then quits. So yeah, that compromised my lap. A couple of tenths lost there. Could have just moved completely out of the way. That would have been nice, but this lap is a bit ruined, just to put it bluntly. But we might as well complete it. See what we can do through the final sector. BMW does feel a bit chunky through here. Get a blue flag. Don't know what that was all about, but maybe the game's just trying to tell me I'm that slow. But through the final sector. Sector 3, very difficult here at Fuji. I think we've got a bit of a tap there from behind. And the BMW definitely feeling a bit chunky through these final sweeping long corners. Onto the straight then. And this is a good example of slipstream. I don't have any in front. The guy behind me has it. He gains, 2 car lengths for free. and that could be a 10th maybe. So I'll qualify a few tenths quicker than I did in the first session, the one that quit. I wanted to just do another lap here just to see exactly what I could do, and it's through this corner I gained, or that I lost on my actual lap. I went and did again just to see what I could do, and just looking at the split times here, you know, I lost 3 tenths pretty much in that middle sector, so I know that I could have gone at least a couple of tenths quicker than what I did here, and perhaps could have been well inside the top 10, but that's just the way it is. Look at that though, look how close it is, half a second away from pole, and I'm in 11th. So it just shows you just how close it is, and why you need every little bit that you can get in qualifying. And to be fair, you know, I don't blame the player at all. I don't blame any of the players for slowing down and trying to not give the toe, or make sure they do get the toe. It's just the way that the game is, annoyingly. But here we go then. In the race, it was actually 14th eventually that we started in. A couple of other people went slightly quicker. Now, as I said earlier, medium and soft tyre for this race. And I'm going to start on the medium. This was actually the same sort of deal in round 1, where you had medium and soft tyres, and I found that ending the race on soft tyres when you've got low fuel actually really helps. So I'm going to go with the medium tyre, and I misshift. I don't know if you spotted that. I sort of shifted way too early at the start of the race, and immediately I lose a position because of that. Very stupid mistake. So immediately down into 15th out of 19. Now, you might think, well, you know, you're a little bit far back here, you haven't had much practice, what can you cement out of this race? Well, I'll tell you, this race was a really good one, and I didn't really expect it, to be honest, because Fuji's never been one of my top circuits. But as you can see, just look how big this group is in front. This is going to be one of those races where you can just slowly but surely pick your way through the bunch, and there's no need here to be, you know, completely aggressive and always going for every corner. You can just bide your time. You do a bit of fuel saving, a little bit of tyre saving, and hopefully by the end it will all come good, and we'll see if that happens. So of course we're in the tow. Try and fuel save a little bit as we come out this long left, sort of a long double apex, and then you come back for this second apex here, and then in towards the final corner. Very awkward corner, this one. I never really know exactly how to take it. We're going to go for the deep line, cut back to get a good straight exit, or straighter exit. So that's the end of lap 1. Okay, not gone well. We're car number 15. We're in 15th, and we've lost position. But lots of time to go yet. And we mentioned it earlier, the curb of death coming out of turn 3 here at Fuji, as we go 3 abreast into turn 1. And we're going to try to maybe nip up the inside of the Nissan. Not quite going to work. But the curb of death, we're coming up to it here. And, you know, there's lots of death on Gran Turismo. Chicane of death, for example. We've got the curb of death here. And it's this curb on the right here, just to come out here. If you just get your wheels caught on the edge of that, there's a probability of you spearing left and into another dimension. We're going to go into the inside line here. Get a nice exit. That's actually quite a fun overtake to do. You just kind of, you don't release the throttle, you just keep it pinned and then run out wide into that hairpin and then throw out the inside. So I've gained on the Nissan. We've got the Aston side by side with us here. It's going to be Lawrence up the inside. I know I'm going to lose the position. I'm just going to drive a little bit wider to let him tuck in front, and he does that. So ultimately we have gained a position there, back into 14th where we started. It's going to be one of those races again where it's just going to be really how do I say it? It's going to really pivot on small moments, and you just want to make sure you don't come out on the wrong side of a bad overtake or curb of death, or you lose the toe. Losing the toe is absolutely critical, and if you do that, then it's game over in many respects. Okay, so just making sure we save some fuel here, coming up the main straight. If you're not going to be overtaking, you might as well save fuel. I suppose that's how it works. Or, you know, if someone's right behind you, then yeah, you might not want to save fuel. But if you're not going to be overtaken and there's no chance of you overtaking, then yeah, save a bit of fuel. Someone's serving a penalty there. Long race. It's going to be about half an hour. So we've got to make sure we avoid lots of different possible traps. And of course we've mentioned them already, curb of death, penalties. other people crashing, yourself crashing, making a mistake. There's just so many things that can go wrong in a race of this sort of length. And given that I haven't played this game a huge amount recently, there's a very high chance of one of those things happening. Okay, so the car behind the Jaguar there, just dropping off. That's always nice to know when you just look behind and there's a big gap. Now, I just wanted to look at this car. So this is the Mercedes in 8th place. It's at the front of the group that I'm at the back of. Coming into turn 1 here, the two BMWs go flying in a little bit too late. The Mercedes here gets collected and he gets run out wide, and he ends up, as we just look in the rearview mirror, ends up spinning out. That just shows you one little moment that you're on the wrong end of, and boom, your race is over. So he was 8th in a comfortable position, and then before you know it, he's down in last. He's 19th right now, and about 10 seconds off the pack. No chance of getting a result any longer. So, up to 12. We're just picking our way through slowly. People making mistakes, people getting penalties, which is going to make sure that we aren't one of those people. Winding our way down towards turn 10, the good overtaking opportunity here at the bottom of the hill into the hairpin, slowest corner on the circuit, just braking on the gantry that's on the right hand side of the circuit. Hit the apex through the left, a bit of a coast just to get the car to turn in. You can straight line that exit over the curb and then back out to the left for this long right. Now this is a very technical sector here, and Fuji was the track that I never really got on with, but I think it was last year when it was one of the daily races and I really just hammered in the laps, really hammered in a lot of laps and got a lot better at it. And well, it's still average, but better than I was. As Mount Fuji looks over us as we round out lap number 6. BMW serving a penalty there for the contact with the Mercedes at the beginning of this lap, and we cross the line to begin the 7th lap. People are going to start thinking about pitting now. So I'm on the medium tyre, I have to go over to the soft at some points. You do have to do one pit stop. But it's too soon for me. I'm going to try and go a little bit longer on this stint. So a nice little group here with the McLaren and BMW and what's the front? The Aston Martin. So a couple of people are going to go in. The Aston and the BMW are going to go into the pit lane. We'll see how their race pans out a little bit later on. I'm going to stick behind the McLaren. I'm going to stay out here, go a little bit longer, and try to extend this first stint so that we can really attack the second stint with the soft tyres, and by being behind as well, save a bit of fuel. So in a good position here. We're just slowly making our way forward. It's just one of those things, you know. It's never a quick process in these types of races. Half an hour long. It's not, well, it is a kind of a sprint race, but you can't just go flat out every second. You kind of have to bide your time. You don't have to always overtake every corner. So like there, could have overtaken. The McLaren, not the best through long corners, and it's not the best on the brakes either. And we're kind of working that out as we go along here. Well, we kind of know that anyway by having driven that car in the past. So we know its strengths, we know its weaknesses. Very good on the straight, so it's very hard to overtake the McLaren on the straight, given its top end speed. But that's okay. I don't really want to overtake it. I just want to sit behind, save fuel, play the long game, and hopefully it will pay off for us at the end. End of lap 9. I was thinking I'll just do what the McLaren does. If he goes in, I'll follow him, and he doesn't go in. Okay, so we'll do one more lap, and all the guys behind us do go in. So I think the top 4 here, so myself included, we have not pitted yet, so we've gone longer than everyone else, and we'll see if that's the right decision or not. I must admit that at the time of recording, at the time of doing this race, I felt like, I don't know if this is the right decision. I really don't know. It felt like, you know, when everyone dives into the pits behind you and you've carried on, you do begin to question yourself, think, have I made the right call here? I don't know. But I thought, I'm going to go in the end of this lap. I'll go in the end of this lap for sure, because I don't want to leave it too long. So therefore, my strategy right now is to actually try to go for this pass. Go for this pass on the in lap, so that when I come out of the pit lane, maybe I'll be ahead of him. But I wasn't quite close enough to go for that move there at turn 5 or down there into turn 10. So we're going to have to stick behind for now and just try to make it a tidy in lap. So he's flashing his hazards. I think that means he wants to go into pit lane. We're going to follow him in. End of lap 10, so halfway into the race exactly. And I almost put the medium tyres on there quite stupidly. That would have been a critical error. That would have been a very stupid error. I've done that before. Put the same tyres on meaning I'd have to come back in and put the softs on, which would have been basically race over. So the BMW boys, as ever, looking good. Doing a fantastic job of putting the soft tyres on. We're going to put a little bit of fuel in. We're going to under-fuel slightly just to make sure that I stick with the McLaren. And this has turned out perfectly. This is exactly what we wanted. We just want the slipstream. We're stuck in the slipstream still. That's good. And if we just take a look behind at the group, you see there, look, there's a good 5 cars right behind us. If we had delayed anything on that pit stop, we may well have been stuck much further down that group. Now the McLaren, boom, there it is. Our first Shadow Realm entry of the video. And he exits stage left into the barrier and then actually disappears completely and morphs into a whole new dimension. So he's done. He's absolutely done for. We started with 19 down to 18. So that McLaren doing really well, and then all of a sudden he's gone. Now, okay, so this, I was breaking up this race into really like small sort of sectors almost. Coming into this sector here, turn 10 at the hairpin, it's basically a case of, can I get within slipstream range by the time we get to the straight? You're basically thinking that every lap. And going into turn 10, I was 7 tenths behind. Now a little bit closer. This is good. This is what I need. I just need to make sure that I am in the toe. As I said earlier, if you lose that toe, it can be really crucial. If I didn't have the toe here, I'll be on the back foot against the guys behind, the Mitsubishi behind. Thankfully, I'm 4 tenths behind. This is good. This is exactly what we need. 8 laps of fuel remaining. But as we cross to begin lap 12, we have actually 9 laps to go. So don't make this mistake. It's a very easy mistake to make, that 20 minus 12 equals 8. Therefore, I've got 8 laps left. Well, actually, I've got 9 laps left. So don't make that basic rookie mathematical error, because that will mean you begin the final lap with no fuel. So yeah, don't do that. I've done that before because I'm sometimes stupid, but I'm not going to make that mistake today. So we do have to save some fuel in this second stint, but we've got a very good tyre situation. Let's have a look at the map. You see it's fairly spread out in front of us. It's quite a close group where I am and just behind. If there are any mistakes, and I'm going to get swallowed by the group behind, and I could easily lose 3-4 positions. Inversely, let's put some good laps in, and we can slowly but surely reel our way forwards. But here, you see I'm in lean mix 6, just wanted to save a little bit of fuel. I could have gone for this move on this Nissan, but I felt like I just want a couple of laps behind him, just saving a bit more fuel, short shifting slightly, and using lean mix on the straights. And at this point here, end of lap 13, I actually felt like, okay, now it's time to go for it. We're getting a little bit close to the BMW in 9th place. So now I think I have the confidence to go past this guy. So you can see I'm very, very close. I'm no doubt quicker. I've got the better tyre. And then Nissan is a rather chunky old thing. I mean, I thought the BMW was a big old block coming through that sector 3. But the BMW, a little bit more agile and a little bit faster in the slipstream. Nissan GT are one of the quickest cars in a straight line, but it's no match for slipstream. So we go through up into 10th. We're up into the top 10 for the first time in the race. Well, I mean, we were in 4th earlier, but that was only because we didn't pit. So we're in a genuine 10th, a genuine top 10 now. That's good news. We are making solid progress. We haven't died from that curb. And it looks like we are able to perhaps bring this home. Perhaps bring this home. A better result than 10th, I think. So, rounding out the middle corner here, long left-hander. These corners here, kind of inconsequential. It's the big braking zone here into turn 10. Looking for that gantry, the Dunlop gantry. There it is. Boom. Just as that disappears from your view. That's actually a little bit late on the brakes, if anything. So, ignore my advice completely. And then straight line in the exit there. Just some people hitting that bollard on the inside, in fact. So make sure you keep 2 wheels on the red and white and you should be okay. But I would say we are definitely gaining. You might have noticed the green Aston Martin of Ollie Racing there in 8th. He made a really quick start to this race. I'm guessing he was on softs when most people around the second half of the pack were in mediums. So he initially bolted forwards very quickly. but then now he's going to be on the slower medium tyre. So 1.3 seconds behind Ace 72, and we just need to get into that 7/10 sort of area. We're going to try and do that on this lap. Let's have a look ahead here, because this was a very strange incident. And James here, second victim of the curb, slides wide, manages to recover it and not completely go into the wall. Comes back on the track in front of this Ferrari, and this was quite a dubious one. He did come on at, quite a speed straight onto the racing line, just in front of another car. And the Ferrari here is going to get very frustrated because he's going to get a penalty for that. And then turning left on a straight shows his dismay at such a decision from the stewards, before then turn it into a drifting session. And that was all unfolding just in front of us here. So we're going to go past this Ferrari. He's got the 2-second penalty. Basically gives up on the race. So it just shows you again, one little moment that goes wrong and boom, like your race is over. You're always treading a fine line, it seems. But we're going to gain another position up to 9th. And this is looking good. Like, everything is falling into place at exactly the right moment, because as we come out of this final corner here, we are again within slipstream range of this BMW. So very much on the tail of him. You see the amount of cars behind. They are close, but not quite able to live with my pace at this moment of the race. Courtesy, really, I think, of having the softer tyres. I've got the soft tyres, and I went long on the first stint, so I've got fresher softs. I've probably got some of the best tyres on the whole grid. Now, our third victim was the leader of the race, TX3 Michi. Goes round into the wall, and he's going to lose a lot of time. You see they're doing a 5,000 point turn to try to recover it. And we get the yellow flag, and you know that when you're going to turn 3 and there's a yellow flag, you just know what's happened. Someone's become a victim of the curb once again. I mean, it's quite an evil curb, and there's quite a few tracks which have curbs like that. I think it's turn 9 at Catalonia has one as well. There's plenty of tracks. You just drip. You just drop your 2 wheels on the edge just for a split second. I think exactly in a straight line compared to the curb, and boom, that's it, you're round. Very, very strange glitch, but yeah, you just have to be very, very careful with your wheel placement on the edge of curbs, basically. So sometimes I do think it's luck or bad luck that does happen to you, but sometimes you do just have to place your car very precisely and make sure you don't put your wheels on the edge. And if you do, just lift off the throttle and straighten your steering, just to really try to avoid the car entering the shadow realm. Okay, through the final corner. This is looking good here. Look at this. We are within sight of 4th place. Within sight of 4th. We started 14th. That would be a net gain of 10 if we could do that. Still have 4 laps to go. 4 laps to go at this point. 1 position a lap. Is it doable? Is it doable? We'll see. 3.5 laps of fuel remaining. I want to go for this move here into turn 1. Is it going to happen? No. I was going to go for it, but then he just pulled out slightly. I don't know if that was defensive or if he was going to go for a move on Ollie. But it didn't happen in the end. We do get a good run here, though. Look at this. Up the inside into turn 3. Late on the brakes. We're going to hit the apex first. Boom. He's on the outside. Not much space going to be given there. I was mostly ahead. It was a close one. We're going to get ahead of Michi, though. He's going to be rather frustrated. He was the leader of the race barely a lap ago. And he now finds himself down in the midfield in 8th place. But we're on the front foot. Looking for 6th place. Now that would be very fitting, wouldn't it? As we head down towards turn number 10. Looking for the move here. No, not quite. This is really a case of just thinking ahead. Do I need to go for the move there? No. I'll probably lose a bit of time. And then he'll just slipstream back past me on the straight. So I just need to just stick with him here. You've got to think ahead in these races. And make sure that, especially in going into sector 3, a lot of the time you might as well just wait for the straight unless there is a group in front who you can latch onto for the straight. And I'm not quite close enough to latch onto the back of James there in 5th. So I might as well wait for this opportunity here. Onto the main straight for the end of lap number 17. 2.8 laps of fuel remaining. Or 2.7 now, with 3 laps to go. We are getting slightly closer with that fuel amount. so it might not be totally impossible to finish this race. Up the inside of Ollie, up into 6th place we go. We find our natural habitat has been found by Super GT. It was bound to happen, but I want to do a bit better than that. We've still got 2 positions to possibly gain with 2.5 laps within which to gain them with a long right of 130R. Second apex there. Just driving really tidily, and it's these types of races actually where I think, especially in Group 3, where I can do quite well, where you don't want to be driving at 100%, you kind of want to be driving at sort of 95, just to preserve your tyres and your fuel a little bit. It just feels nice to be able to do that. It's turn 10. Are we gaining enough? Again, it's that simple equation. We need to be 7 tenths behind at the beginning of the main straights. A very, very long main straight. I don't have these stats to hand of how long it is, but I'm thinking about at least a kilometre, if not a mile, if not 10 miles. All right, are we close enough? It's going to be very, very close. We're about 8 tenths behind going into the final corner. He's getting a good exit here, bit of a squirm. Also, the Mercedes getting a bit of a sideways action going. And we are just within the 3/4 of a second zone, the Goldilocks zone, if you like. Across the line we go. Lap 19 begins. Having a quick look behind, we have dropped Ollie. He's on the mediums, surely. Doesn't have the pace to reply. Into turn 1. And very much a case of still being patient. I know it's the end of the race, and I know it's very easy to get a bit eager now. I've just got to do a nice tidy lap here on 19, as you can see, I've really gained here. Look how good the Mercedes is off this corner. Really good traction. And I remember that from the days of when I chose Mercedes as my manufacturer. It's really good out of sort of slow, medium corners. Has very good traction. And that's proven to be the case here. So, 1 lap plus 1 corner to go. I'm in 6th. 5th is possible. 4th is possible. If we make a mistake, the Shadow Realm is possible. Let's see what happens as we head up the main straight for its entirety for the last time. Of course, on the last lap, you're not going to do the full straight. Going into the toe of the cars ahead, I have 0.9 laps of fuel, 5% of fuel remaining. I do need to save a bit here. I'm not going to go for the pass into turn 1. Not quite close enough. We do need to save a tiny bit. That's the frustrating thing. Maybe I could have saved a little bit more up to this point to give yourself the ammo to fight on the final lap, so you can, go fully at it. Coming into turn 3, last chance to die of death from the curb. Is it going to happen? No, we've been very good. 20 times through there, and we have a 0% hit rate of death on the exit of 130R. Look for that move. That was a move that we did earlier in the race. It can work. You just drive out wide and then just aim for the apex of the next left-hander. Didn't quite work out for me there. There is another overtaking opportunity here. Of course, down into turn 10. Look for the gantry. We're going to go for it. Are we? Yes, we are. I think James covers it off really well. He brakes really late, and I couldn't really go for that move. There's a very high chance of trying to outbrake him and going into the side of Lawrence. That is a common thing that happens at turn 10. We've got to be really careful of that. We still have 2 chances though, of trying to get past him into the final corner, or in a drag race to the line out of the final corner. Are we close enough here to go for this move? It might have been close enough. It would have been perhaps door-to-door banging. But we're going to have to go for the drag race towards the line. He does have the toe of Lawrence in 4th. And as we run up to the line, I don't think I'm going to be close enough. It is going to be a 6th place for Super GT. Name a more iconic duo. The fuel runs out about 5 meters before the finish line. So I pretty much judged that to perfection. But look at that. 6th place, 9 seconds away from the lead in the end. I'm really pleased with that. We started 14th and we end up 6th. 8 positions gained. And it was just a really fun race where everything sort of came together. Nothing really went wrong. Nothing really went wrong at all. I really enjoyed it. It was really good fun. I really hope you enjoyed watching it. Yeah, if you did, drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel. But today, that is all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Take care out there. Stay safe. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.